Hi guys, in this video I'm going to be comparing three external NVMe SSD enclosures and seeing how they compare in terms of aesthetics, performance and reliability on an M1 Mac. On the left is the Ugreen M2 portable SSD enclosure, in the middle is the Sabrent USB 3.2 enclosure, and on the right is the Nimaso USB 3.1 Gen 2 enclosure. All of these enclosures use a USB 3.1 or 3.2 Gen 2 interface for a maximum theoretical transfer speed of 10 gigabits per second. Starting with design first, the Ugreen enclosure is made from lightweight space grey aluminium with rounded edges, and it's a near perfect match for the space grey colour used in Apple's MacBooks. There's a discrete Ugreen logo on the top along with a power and activity LED. The Sabrent enclosure is made from a very thick aluminium which feels very solid and quite heavy. It's finished in silver with the Sabrent logo on top and a blue power and activity LED at the back. Again, this is a very Apple style design that would look right at home next to a silver MacBook. The Nimaso enclosure is the only one of the three to be made entirely out of plastic. It's finished in a metallic paint with a glossy outer layer and a white power and activity LED at the back near the USB-C port. Moving on to performance now, first in Blackmagic Disk Speed Test, the Ugreen enclosure managed around 790 MB per second for the write speed and 824 MB per second for the read speed. This puts it only slightly behind the Nimaso enclosure, which managed 801 MB per second for the write speed and 843 MB per second for the read speed. The Sabrent enclosure, meanwhile, is the slowest of the three by a large margin, with just under 500 MB per second for the write speed and 550 MB per second for the read speed. Meanwhile, in AJ System Test, the results are quite similar. The slowest again is the Sabrent enclosure with 423 MB per second for the write speed and 534 for the read speed. Next is the Ugreen enclosure with a write speed of 675 MB per second and a read speed of 794. And the fastest again is the Nimaso enclosure with 657 MB per second for the write speed and 868 MB per second for the read speed. So although the Ugreen beat the Nimaso enclosure this time in the write performance by about 18 MB per second, it still has the edge overall thanks to the significantly higher read speed. Moving on to ease of installation now, the Ugreen enclosure is completely toolless. To open the enclosure, you just press on the back cover and pull it back, then slide in the SSD, which is held in place with a plastic pin. Then the back can be slid back on until it clicks into place. The Nimaso enclosure is also opened by pressing in and pulling back on the bottom cover, but you do need a screwdriver to install the SSD. A small Phillips head screwdriver is included in the box. The Sabrent enclosure is also toolless and uses a folding metal ring which is flipped up and rotated to open the cover, and then the SSD is held in place with a magnetic pin. This is by far the best solution in my experience and feels the most secure. Finally, reliability, which is probably the most important aspect of any enclosure. The Ugreen enclosure has been rock solid. After several weeks of use, I haven't had any unexpected disconnects at all, and it's worked perfectly. The Nimaso enclosure unfortunately disconnects itself regularly, often multiple times a day. I've tried using different cables and different ports, but it still disconnects. The Sabrent enclosure has also been rock solid, but only when using the USB-C cable included with the drive. When using other cables, like the one included with my Samsung T7 for example, the connection is less secure, and sometimes just nudging the drive can cause it to disconnect. Perhaps because of the thickness of the aluminium used for making the case, the USB-C port is slightly recessed. So Type-C cables not made with this in mind don't make a good connection. Overall then, the winner in this comparison has to be the Ugreen. Performance was very good, the toolless design makes installation straightforward and the reliability is solid. Second is the Sabrent enclosure. Although it's the slowest drive, the build quality is second to none and the reliability is very good, at least when using the included cables. And in last place is the Nimaso enclosure. Despite having the best performance of the three, unfortunately it's let down by the plastic build quality, the fact that you need to use a screwdriver to install the SSD, and the frequent random disconnects. That's it for this video, thanks for watching.